Hey Kawan, welcome to EDCReady. Today I am doing a review that is a long time coming. This is a review of my personal Seiko SRPE51K1. K1 here denotes that it is a watch that's actually made in Malaysia, which is my home country, or at least partially made in Malaysia. And something I really appreciate because it helps out the local economy. And now after maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 months of having this guy, I can't remember how long, but it's been a long while. I finally have the full review. Now the reason why I took a long time is also something I want to talk to you guys about. I am very new to the watch game. Watches have never really been something I'm interested in. I just felt like this was a good time to maybe start getting into watches. This is also my first automatic watch, so keep that in mind. This review will come from someone who is very new and very unexperienced in the market. So without further ado, let's get into some measurements. We'll do it here in millimeters. Now, the measurement on the case here is coming at, there we go, it's coming at right around 40 millimeters, which is what they say on the website. With the crown, which is a little bit awkwardly placed at the 4 o'clock position, it is coming at, there we go, just right around 43 millimeters. We have here a case thickness of, there we go, just over 12 millimeters. We're at 12.4, 12.5 millimeters, and I'll talk about why in a little bit. And then we have a lug distance of right there, 20 millimeters. So very nice. Another dimension I would like to talk about is the weight dimension. So as I take out my weighing scale that I have here from Thailand, okay, this will measure in grams, but I will do the conversion for you guys. This is coming at 127 grams with the bracelet fitted to my wrist, and my wrist is coming at right around 6.5 inches, very small wrist. 127 grams is about just under 4.5 ounces in total weight. So one thing I do want to talk about is that if you notice this little crack here, okay, there's a little crack there. Do not worry, that is not the actual mineral crystal. That crack is actually the screen protector that I have on there. I do have a glass screen protector that I put on top of that, and that's because this guy comes with a Hardlex crystal, which is their proprietary mineral crystal, which is I don't think it's very easy to break or anything. It's just that it does tend to scratch up a little bit because it is a mineral crystal. So I added on, or the guy that I bought this from added on this guy from from the original condition. So nothing wrong with the crystal. Next thing, I did buy this guy secondhand. I bought this guy from ProNave and More. You can check him out. His YouTube channel will be linked in the description down below. So without further ado, let's go into the review. I'm gonna go with what I like and what I don't like from top to bottom of this watch. Firstly, let's start with the top. Let's talk about the crystal. The crystal is a Hardlex crystal, which is their proprietary mineral crystal. I don't really see any anti-reflective coating on it, so do keep that in mind. You are gonna see the reflection coming off of the sun, or in this case, my light panel. Now, Hardlex crystal, it is, from my understanding, it is not a very scratch-resistant crystal because it is a mineral crystal. However, being something that doesn't have such a high hardness, it does tend to be able to take impacts a little bit better. Although what I would suggest is, and this is what I did based on the guy who sold me this watch, that guy put a screen protector on top of that. So I really do appreciate that, and something I would do, and eventually I might replace this because of that little crack. But yeah. Okay, moving down a little bit, let's talk about the dial. I really like this dial for a few reasons. Number one is that you have this little sunburst pattern on there. As you can see there, it just plays with the light. And this is one of the grey dials, and once I looked at it at the photos, I was thinking to myself that it's a little bit light for my preference. I prefer a sunburst dial but a little bit darker. Fortunately, when I got it in hand, when I saw it in person, it is just at that nice slightly deeper grey color. The brightness that I saw was because it was probably shot in the studio with a lot of really bright lights, so it turned out being a little bit light grayer than I would have appreciated. But in this case, I really like it. I think it just works out really well. Moving on to the rest of the dial, I do appreciate the minimal information that you have on the dial. What you have is the Seiko 5 logo. You have the word automatic, all the indices, and the hands itself, and then the day and the date. I have a little bit of a pet peeve with these high-end watches that has chronometer and then 500 meters or 1000 feet, and then Swiss made and Geneva and all that. I just think that there's too much writing onto the watch, and it kind of reduces the appeal of the dial in my opinion. But this is a-okay. Moving on, all the indices here are applied. All the hour markers here, all the way around, all the 12 hour markers are applied. The Seiko logo is applied right there. I believe the Seiko 5 logo is painted on along with the automatic logo. Okay, so all in all, you get this nice like three-dimensional texture onto the dial. You get the sunburst effect that kind of goes around, and then the indices kind of stick up a little bit on the dial, which I really appreciate. Next up on the dial, let's talk about the Loom. The Loom here is great. this is my first experience with Lumi Bright Loom. Before this, I had a lot of like cheaper watches, and these cheaper watches don't have really good Loom, but this guy is great. Let me just switch off my light just to showcase to you guys. Excuse me. There we go. Yeah, that Loom is fantastic. It is bright all night long, and I can even read it way early, like in the early parts of the morning, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., no problem. And that's something I really appreciate, because my daughter does tend to wake up at about 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning, so I can definitely check out the time. And especially if she's crying at night, this is a great way to check out the time. Maybe it's time to feed her or change her diaper or whatever. Okay, moving on. You have this day and date complication, which I really do enjoy. In my experience, I only have watches. I don't have any on hand right now, but I only have watches with a date window or no date window at all. But having date is just a nice complication. For me, it is something that kind of reduces complexity in my day-to-day life, which is nice. I can kind of look down and see, oh, it's Wednesday and it's the 16th, which I really do enjoy. So let's see now what else. Oh, okay, let's talk about the hands. The hands, you have this little needle at the tip there. You can see in the minute hand, and then at the hour hand. And that little needle in the tip just makes it a little bit more legible. You can kind of adjust things with a little bit more precision, which I really do enjoy. Now, let's talk about the case finishing. Case finishing is very nice. I'm actually quite surprised how good the case finishing is from Seiko. And I will just show it to you guys right now after I do a little bit of polishing. Yeah. So, at the top right here, right at the brim here, you do have some scratches, which are inevitable with high polish finishes. But it starts off with a high polish, and then you get a little bit of a brush in between here, and then once you get to the bottom of the bezel there, you get another high polish value right there. And then once you get to the lugs right here, the next layer under that, it is a brush finish, and then under that, it is a polish finish all the way down to the bottom. All in all, the finishing on this case is really nice. I really like it, especially for such a nice budget watch. Hey Kawan, sorry for the hard cut, but there's actually a point here that I actually forgot to mention about the case, and it's a very important point, which is why I'm filming this extra part right here. And that is this area right here. As you can see, this area at the bottom here is high polish, so it's very smooth. But on top of that, it also has a very high up sweep that goes up into the watch. And as a result of that, once this is on your wrist, I'm going to show it to you on my right hand, because that's how I wear my watch, that this upsweep makes it very comfortable in your hand. As with other watches that tend to be a little bit blocky, they tend to like crunch up or bunch up all your like hand flesh right here. But this guy, because of that upsweepness, is actually very comfortable in hand and doesn't like restrict your movement at all. One of the other reasons why that this watch is so comfortable. Alright, back to the full review. So yeah, so that's really good. It came to a pretty good surprise to me how good this watch finished coming out of the factory. Next up, let's talk about this. We have a guard here for this little crown. Yes, this crown guard is at the 4 o'clock position, which I really do enjoy. Now, despite the fact that I actually wear my watches on my right hand, so this little crown here would not be a problem when I bend my wrist up and down, because it doesn't poke into my hand. But even if I were to wear it on my left hand, which is how most people wear their watches, right? Okay, you're not going to get this poking into your hand very much, because it is at a slightly obtuse angle, slightly angled away from your wrist. So that's a little nice feature. I do enjoy that. Speaking of the crown, this is definitely a second-hand locking. Second-hand, what is that term? My god. As you can see, I'm a watch noob. So what I'm trying to say is that when you pull this out, the second hand hacks. That's the word. So it completely stops, and then you can do any kind of adjustment that you want. You can adjust the hours and the minutes. Okay. You also have quick adjust day and date, which I will not do right now, but you can definitely quick adjust day and date. Then when you press it back in, like then the timer continues. Very nice. Moving on. let's go to the back of it. You can see here it has a see-through or showcase case back, and I really do enjoy that. Being my first ever automatic watch, I do kind of see the charm of having this case back so that you can see the movement. And the reason being is that when you look in there, you can see that little rotor that spins over there. Now, I liken that to a heartbeat. And this is one of the things I discovered once I went from quartz watch to automatic watches, and why people like automatic watches. Unlike a quartz watch, which is robotic in many ways, it uses electricity, this guy right here has a little heartbeat. Okay? And that heartbeat is like an analog for, analog, pun intended, and that heartbeat is an analog for watch for life. So what that means is that you gotta take care of this guy. You know, you gotta take it for walks, you gotta feed it, okay? You gotta take it out for walks, you put it on your wrist, you keep it moving, keep it happy. Once in a while, you gotta feed it by winding it up. So all in all, it actually feels like having a pet. And I believe that that is, like, to me, the biggest charm about having an automatic watch. It is like having a pet in your arms, on your hand, that you carry with you every day. And that's a nice little bit of a charm. Now, with that being said, this watch could be a little bit thinner if it had a stainless steel case back, but it's already thin enough as it is. So I don't really see a problem with having a see-through case back. I do appreciate a see-through case back on a watch that is this thin, because that is not so easy to do. Okay, let's talk about accuracy of this watch. Now, this watch, I did do an accuracy test video. You can check it out on my channel, where I tested how accurate this watch is over a period of a week, I believe. And on average, minus one particular day, which I will explain in a bit, I was getting negative 1.5 seconds variance per day on average throughout the week. And that is really, really great. You know, one of the worries I had about is, you know, moving from a quartz watch to a mechanical watch, you would definitely get a drop in accuracy. But the drop is not that big. You know, going from like 0.5 seconds a day to 1.5 seconds a day variance is not that big of a deal, and I compensate quite easily. I'm pretty much late for everything anyway, so that second to second accuracy is not that big of a deal for me. Now, there was one particular day which I lost a huge chunk of time. I'm talking about like 45 seconds, like that, or maybe more. I can't remember, but it was like almost a minute of time that I lost in a day. You can check out the video for that test video. Now, I found out that the reason that happened was because I didn't charge it enough. The day before that, I only wore this for 8 hours, which normally I would wear it for 12 to 16 hours a day. And because of that lack of wind, it actually caused the watch to be less accurate. So that's a bit of a lesson learned. Now, one negative thing I gotta say about this movement is that, okay, it is a robust movement, it is a reliable movement, it's a very cheap to service movement. However, it says on the website that this is a 42-hour power reserve. In my day-to-day life, it does not reach 42 hours. Now, what do I do in my day-to-day life? Well, I sit down, I work from home on a desk. During the day, I may do some chores, which includes washing dishes, doing laundry / folding clothes, and bathing my daughter. And that is pretty much my day-to-day life. And with that, I get about 30 to 34 hours of life on this guy. By the time I cycle, I have only one other mechanical watch. By the time I cycle back to this guy, and I alternate every day, it's normally dead by like 4 AM or 5 AM, and I have to reset it. Now, one exception is that if I wear this guy on a run, then I get pretty much the full 42 hours, no problem. But do keep that in mind that you do need a lot of movement, in my experience, like going out and jog for an hour, to get the full lifespan out of the springs in this watch. Okay, so yeah, let's move down a little bit. Let's talk about the bracelet. The bracelet here is, I believe these are called hollow end links, where the end of the links are hollow. So the bracelet actually comes out a little bit rattly. You can hear it there. Yeah. So it is a bit of a rattly bracelet. It did catch me off guard because I've only ever worn watches with a leather strap or a rubber strap, but it was soon forgotten because I really like wearing a bracelet. Bracelets are very low stress. They're not low cost, but they are very like low stress and low worry when you wear them. I can wear this washing dishes, I can wear this bathing my daughter, I can wear this swimming, no problem. Which, by the way, I forgot about another thing about this watch. It has 100 meters water resist, which I really appreciate, which means I do not need to worry about this watch at all. I don't need to worry about getting wet, washing my hands, doing dishes, doing laundry, swimming, whatever. This watch can take it, especially on the bracelet. So I really appreciate that. The bracelet itself, although it is not very articulate, Okay, although it doesn't really articulate very well, as you can see there, it doesn't really fold that well, but it is nice and comfortable because the edges here are nice and rounded. Okay, not only are the edges here rounded on the inside, but the edges between the links are also rounded. So that means that it just doesn't really have any sharp edges that can pinch or bite on your hand. And I really appreciate that because my Zelos, the edges of those bracelets are a little bit sharp and they can dig into your hand once in a while. But this guy, very comfortable bracelet. Now, that being said, I've never experienced a high-end bracelet, so I do not know. So keep that in mind. Overall, as a newbie in a watch game, this is a pretty good bracelet. Next up, let's talk about the clasp. Well, it is a Seiko clasp. It's a Seiko clasp. It has this little guard here. It has a 2-button press clasp to open. Overall, it's okay, it's comfortable, but there's nothing really like interesting to talk about it. It has some micro adjusts here, some quick micro adjusts, but it only has 2 holes. I would prefer the 3rd hole. Okay, so just so that I can like maybe adjust it a little bit more. Like for me, this fits fine, but I would like to have a 3rd hole just so that, you know, for anyone who needs a slight more adjustment, you can get a little bit more. What you have here is that between this and this, you only get a 1/3 of a link. If you have another one, then you can adjust up to 2/3 of a link. So you can remove a link and then really fine tune it. 2 micro adjustments here, to me, are just not enough. Okay, so one last thing is that the bracelets are a lot easier to take out because they are you have some drilled lugs right here. You can just have a little tool, press it in here, you can disengage the spring bars. Very easy. However, the bracelet itself, the links are not screw down links, which is on my Zelos. However, they are these kind of like push through links. So you gotta take the same tool that you pressed in here to just press through here to adjust it. Okay, let's talk about the conclusion. I believe I've covered everything. In conclusion, what do I think about this watch? This is a great first watch. Now, there are many hobbies that I get into where I regret my first purchase. For example, my EDC hobby, my first purchase is the QSP Deva. It's a good knife, but it's way too big, way too long, way too thick. It's in D2. There are things about it, like in my current EDC Life collection, like I would not get that. EDC collection Life, I would not get that nowadays. In the world of paintball, my first marker was a Tickman A5. Great marker, but it was big, it was cumbersome, it was heavy, it was difficult to take apart and put back together. It was loud, it was not very air efficient. Okay, it was definitely not a marker I would buy right now. This guy was a good first purchase. It took me a long time and a lot of research to find the right watch for my first watch, because to me it's a big investment. 1,000 ringgit is a big investment, around 250 USD. It's a pretty big investment for me. Like even in the world of knives, like, this is really expensive. This is expensive than most of my, in fact all of my knives that I have on the table right now. It's just that I bought it secondhand, which made it a little bit cheaper, a little bit easier to swallow, and it came with some OD green leather bracelets, which I do not have on me right now, but that is a little freebie that the guy gave me. It doesn't come standard with the watch. So with that being said, you know, this is a great first watch I think anyone can get into if they have 250 USD or 1,000 ringgit to spend. You get really good loom, you get a nice movement that is robust, accurate and easy to service. You get a really nice dial that has some nice details, applied indices, day and date complication, see-through case back, so you can really enjoy what the world of mechanical watches has to offer. A couple of things I would do as an upgrade just to make this like an even better watch is that number one is I would have a little glass protector in here. If you want to replace with a sapphire crystal, you can. There are people selling sapphire crystals for this model and other Seiko models online. However, most of them are domed. I'm not a big fan of domed crystals. I like flat crystals just because there are less things to dink onto the watch. So keep that in mind. I would just buy a glass protector and put it on top like what's been done here. It's also way cheaper. I would change the clasp. I would get a little, not only a clasp that has quick adjust, but a clasp that has on-the-fly quick adjust, meaning that I can just open it up, press something here, and then just start adjusting it on the fly. Other than that, this is just a great watch. You know, this is a watch I don't foresee myself selling in any situation unless I can't say that for sure because I've sold almost every knife that I've bought before. Okay guys, thank you. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and as always, stay ready.